The midnight knock of fire. It's midnight. The entire city of Flagstaff, Arizona curls up in the dry desert cold of autumn. Inside the residential neighborhood, silence lies heavy, as if draped in a blanket of time. Fire Station Number 7 stands firm, silent, steadfast like a guard between people and the edge of catastrophe. Inside, the night shift sits in silence. The only sound is the metallic clink as a rescue hammer is replaced on its rack, and the soft glow of yellow light flickers over old photographs hanging on the wall. David, the station chief, a veteran firefighter whose hair is now flecked with gray, is pouring a cup of coffee when he hears it. Scratch, scratch, tap. A soft but steady scraping, like someone or something is trying to get in from the outside. The sound comes from the large glass door at the front of the station. David steps forward, his boots thudding gently on the cold concrete floor, and then his heart seems to stop. Right before him, under the faint neon glow, is a coyote. Gray fur dusted with dirt, dried blood staining its flank. It stands motionless, its yellow eyes locked on him through the glass. But what renders David frozen is the cloth bandage wrapped around its left leg, soaked in blood. Unmistakable, it is the kind of medical bandage available only inside his station. In the heart of a modern city, in the still of night, a wild creature, bearing signs of humanity, appears as if summoned from memory. David takes a step back, his mind racing. Why did it come here? Who bandaged its leg? And why, of all places, did it choose the fire station? A night that seemed ordinary just became the beginning of an unexpected mystery. A message from the dark. David opens the main door, steps out to the porch while the spotlight from the fire engine blazes onto the coyote. It does not run away, nor growl. It just stands there, head slightly tilted, watching him, not with instinct for survival, but as if waiting. He lowers himself, extending a hand cautiously. "Easy there, I've got you." His voice is calm, even speaking as though to another human. The coyote flinches, its left leg trembling. The cloth bandage, dark with blood, is wrapped tight around the frail leg. David frowns. After nearly 20 years as a firefighter, he recognizes that this is not ordinary gauze. It is grayish canvas, cut from an official uniform, exactly the type stored only in the internal supply of the station. His hand freezes in midair, a chill runs down his spine. Someone, or something, used cloth from within this station to bandage the wild animal's leg. David squats, never taking his eyes off the coyote. Slowly it steps back, but does not flee. Its gaze is deep and knowing, as if inviting him to understand something. Memories drift through David's mind, past fires, sleepless nights, the people he couldn't save. This isn't just an injured animal. It did not come by instinct. It carries a message, and he senses, his intuition speaks, that this moment is the beginning of something strange, tied to a part of his past he has never dared to revisit. Footprints in the ashes. That night, the coyote left as quietly as it arrived. No sound, only streaks of blood across the concrete. David stayed awake until dawn. He reopened uniform issuance logs, searching for missing item reports. But everything was silent, as if locked away by time. The next morning, he reviews the security footage. Oddly, at the moment the coyote appeared, the recording glitches, the image blurs as if an invisible current passed through. Everything is off, too strange to be a coincidence. 3 nights later, at precisely 1:14 a.m., the scratching returns. David is ready. He stands inside, hand on the latch. When he opens the door, the coyote is there, this time uninjured, but coated in mud. Mud tracks under its paws created trail on the street, leading north. Then, for the first time, it turns its head, a single glance, a quiet waiting, no prompting needed. David slips on his jacket, grabs a flashlight, and follows. The tracks lead him through dark alleys, across an abandoned parking lot, and into an old industrial zone, vacant since a major fire years ago. It had been a city storage warehouse, and the site where Mark, a former teammate of David's, died in a fierce blaze while trying to rescue a homeless person trapped inside. They never found that person's body, and no one could explain why Mark broke away from the team and rushed alone into the flames. Since then, Everything about the case has been filed away with no answers. The Coyote leads him to the ruined warehouse, now just blackened steel framing and crumbling. Moss-covered walls, the rusted door creaks open where David levered it with his crowbar. Inside is pitch dark, save for his flashlight sweeping through dust and ash. And then he sees it, an extinguisher helmet, charred, resting amid shattered bricks. Beside it lies a partially burned photograph, a woman holding 2 children. Her face smudged under a veil of soot. David grips the flashlight tighter, his heart hammering. It belongs to Mark. There is no mistaking it. He steps closer, metal clinks under his foot. A set of keys slips from debris. Engraved, C Block, the old building's name. The Coyote is gone. It has vanished into the darkness. Yet David feels its presence, as if a shadow. A silent idea guiding him. Emotion wells within him, fear, grief, a strange pull as though being drawn into an invisible vortex. Something remains unresolved, a door left open, and he knows tonight is not the end. This is just the first layer of a deeper truth. And the wild creature, with those mysterious eyes, is not merely a guide. It is leading him home. The fire that never died. The following night, David returned to the old warehouse, not just out of curiosity. Something deep inside him stirred, a silent call he could not ignore. In his pocket was the C Block keychain, something that should have been destroyed in the fire all those years ago. The warehouse stood quietly in the night, rusted steel beams reaching up like skeletal fingers from the earth. David swept his flashlight over each door until he stopped in front of a large room. Locked with an old steel padlock, he slid in the key. It fit perfectly. The lock clicked open with a heavy sound, like a long sigh rising from the past. The door creaked as he pushed it open. The air inside was damp and heavy, not empty. As he had expected, a torn blanket lay over some flattened cardboard boxes. A few empty food cans scattered nearby, and in the corner, caught in the flicker of his shaking flashlight, was a small figure curled up tight. A boy. David rushed over. The child was around 9 or 10 years old, pale skin, cracked lips, blood oozed from one thigh, wrapped in a makeshift bandage of gray fabric, the very same cloth once wrapped around the Coyote's leg. David's heart clenched. What he had once thought impossible now revealed itself, raw and undeniable. The boy was still breathing, barely. Next to him, a trail of dried blood dotted the floor, witness to a quiet, desperate struggle for survival. David quickly called emergency services, broadcasting his location to his team. He could not take his eyes off the child. Questions echoed in his mind. Why was he here? How had he survived this long? And what role had the Coyote played in all of this? A soft sound made him turn. There, in the doorway, stood the Coyote, silent as a shadow. Gone was the wild look in its eyes. What remained was weariness and something deeper, as if it had fulfilled its mission. David could not hold back. He knelt down and placed a hand gently on its head. This time, it did not flinch. A moment of warmth spread through his palm, not a touch between man and beast, but the heartbeat of 2 lost souls connecting. In the distance, sirens wailed. Red lights swept across the night like a beacon from another world. David turned to look, but the Coyote was gone. No sound, no trace, only the lingering warmth in his hand, like a whispered farewell. The boy was saved. Doctors said that if he had been found even 1 hour later, he would not have survived due to blood loss and hypothermia. In his old backpack were a few worn toys and a folded note with his mother's name, the woman who once lived in that warehouse. Possibly the very person Mark had tried to save in the fire years ago. Suddenly, all the pieces fit, painful, but whole. David stood in the hospital corridor, white light casting reflections across his thoughtful face. In his mind, he saw the Coyote stepping through the night, leading the way not only for one fragile life, but for a piece of his own past left buried in the ashes. That wild creature did not come seeking help. It came to give it, and to return a truth that fire had never burned away. The final glance. The next morning, the sun rose behind the San Francisco peaks, painting the firehouse roof in gold. But David had not slept. He sat on the porch, hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee, eyes fixed on the road where the Coyote had once stood. The boy was recovering, His small body had crossed the line between life and death on the thinnest of threads. But what lingered most in David's mind was the coyote's gaze that night, not fearful, not wild, calm, resolute, and deeply human. In his duty log notebook, he wrote only one line. It did not come asking for help. It came to lead the way. 3 days later, tracks appeared again, just one line of paw prints pressed into the damp ground after the rain. Stretching from the firehouse gate to the forest trail, David followed them one last time, hoping to see it again. But no one was there, only the wind through the pines and the crunch of dry branches beneath his feet. David stood among the vast wilderness, heart heavy with something he could not name. Was it gratitude, regret, or a silent bond between two beings from separate worlds? He wondered. How did it know to come to the firehouse? How did it know he was the one to guide? And why? Why him? No one answered. Only one thing remained certain. Some truths in life are not meant to be explained by reason. Some souls, even in the form of wild beasts, exist to connect, to guide, to keep the flame of compassion alive in the human heart. Salvation from a strange place. Between humans and nature, there is always an invisible thread, fragile, delicate, but never broken. A glance, a footprint, a howl in the dark of night can be a call from a world we have long forgotten. That coyote did not just save a child. It saved the piece of humanity David thought had been buried beneath the rubble of his years on the job, years full of loss, full of helplessness. Sometimes, salvation does not come from doctors, police, or heroes in uniform. It comes from the wild, the quiet, the seemingly distant, because empathy, when it crosses the boundary between species, can become a torch that lights the way through the darkest night. David never saw the coyote again, but sometimes, when the city has fallen asleep, he still hears a distant howl echoing from the forest. No one else hears it, only him, and each time, he smiles.